I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask Podcast Live. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. I always like to have some unique services brought to you because why? There's a lot of you at home who are caregivers to an aging parent or aunt, uncle, or anyone. And then there's also you who are caregivers for younger generations, persons with disabilities or anything like that. So I want to bring in a guest today to share some knowledge with you on assisted living programs and the different variations of programs that are assisted living or services that under the umbrella. So when you're starting to look for a service for your loved ones, it's confusing. It's real. It's a lot of confusing. So today, without further ado, I want to bring in my guest, Miss Carolyn Mason. I'm going to mess up her name. Marengere, assisted living
There you
locator.
go.
Hey, Carolyn, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
Good, good, good. Carolyn, I'm sorry, just that quick. I was messing up your name. It's Maringer. Got it. Okay.
That's
So, Carolyn,
correct.
thank you, thank you. A lot of people are always confused about what it is when it's time to decide if they should find a location for their loved ones. And so, I know that you've been in this business for a long time as assisted living a locator in Metro Detroit and beyond, Metro Detroit and beyond. So, I wanted to make sure that today we share the information with our viewers about the program and how a person should go about, seeking assistance for their loved one. So let's start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in this business.
Yeah, so I actually had a whole career in veterinary medicine, and then I kind of stumbled across assisted living locators, but it really wasn't a stumbling. It was a call. It was my new calling, and I was immediately drawn to the idea that there could actually be somebody that could help family members um, with the whole process of picking assisted living options out. And so
Hmm.
I started doing that, and that was 9+ years ago.
Okay. Okay. Well, all of us seem like we have a calling. Okay. And some of us catch it early and some of us catch it kind of late. So, if you're 9 years in, you've mastered it pretty well. And people should be wanting to learn more about the type of programs and services that are available. So, let's start off with a couple of the brochures, resource information, and you can, tell us a little bit about 'em, each and every one that we come across. So starting off with this first one, we have the guidance you need for the care they deserve. Okay. So what about this
Yes.
flyer here?
Yeah, so um that's really about I'm actually like a guide for people to help them um, figure out what kind of care and living options they or their loved one that they're caring for may need. So everybody's situation is different. Everybody's family situation, their health situation, their financial situation, they're all different, which is actually one of the fun things about what I do is it's always something it's not the same every day. And so yeah, so what I do is I help guide people through that whole process. It's kind of an overwhelming process and daunting if you don't have somebody to help you like myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that is so true. So what is a senior living advisor? What is that and how can they help?
Yeah, so that somebody like me who has training and experience in helping people find the right care and living options, as I mentioned before. So a little bit like a realtor, only different. So if you're going to go buy a house or maybe even get an apartment, it's really helpful to have somebody help you with that and help you figure out what are the options that are available to you, what's going to meet your needs. And so that's basically what I do, but it's specific to senior care and senior
Okay.
living.
Okay. So, and you kind of answered the question I was getting ready to ask you is why should someone come to you instead of listening to their neighbors or, trying to figure it out? So it's like you said, almost like real estate.
Yeah, and what happens when people listen to their neighbors, or not that your neighbors, I'm sure they're well-meaning and they have their own perspective on things, but they've probably only experienced maybe one or two things, one or two places,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
they've seen that or done that from their own perspective or their loved one's perspective, and your loved one's perspective maybe, or your situation may be very different from theirs, and so what works for one
Yeah.
person does not work for another. And that's why it's really helpful to have somebody like me who understands that and can point you in the right direction to the places that do meet those needs,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
helps you to not have, not make the wrong decision about, oh, well, this place is right
Your
around the
choice.
corner. And it's a senior living place. I'm sure that'll be the best place for my mom or my dad or whatever. When it turns out it might completely be the wrong place, but so just because it's close or just because somebody suggested it doesn't mean that it's
Right.
going to be a good fit.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, let's go to
Yeah.
this second brochure you have here, and why assisted living locator. So you know what, Carolyn, you answering the questions, but I'm going to just piggyback on it again because you said we work with you at a local level. We're your partner, not just a placement agent. Unbiased solutions and no cost to you. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. So,
Y-
in other words, you guys can get a phone call. Somebody say, "Hey, I'm trying to figure out what type of assistance I should give my dad, placement I should give my dad," and you guys will provide the resources for the person.
Yeah, and I think the key about that particular page is it's local. So I'm a local person. I'm in this area. I've been to all of the places that I would suggest to somebody. I've actually gone in there. I've met the people that are there. I've met the people that work there. I know, I know where different places are in the area, versus like an online service or something like
Hmm.
that, that could be somebody that's in a completely different state that's trying to help you figure something
Right.
out, and they don't have any idea the difference between Sterling Heights or Southgate. I mean, they
And
just
you
don't
know,
know. Yeah, so being local is
that's a
really
major
really important.
that's a major concern because when a person is looking for scouting for a facility and then they see a brochure or something and they like it and they find out, oh wow, that's over there, okay, that's in another county and this and that, so then they get turned off based on the location because it's too far, but it does provide the amenities that their loved one needs, because a lot of facilities don't exactly match up with the amenities of the care for the person, and then
That's
you're
correct.
stuck with trying to figure out, can I eliminate that and just move on to something else, or do I, go ahead and take my loved one out here on 19 Mile and we live here on 7 Mile, something like that. So,
Right.
is there an issue or concern when people are trying to match up their loved ones exactly with the type of skill sets?
Um, I mean, I think probably the biggest concern is that while there are wonderful places and there are places that do a great job, there really isn't a perfect match. There really, like, if you can get 80 or 90% of your what you need, out of a particular place, that's a good match.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
Nowhere is perfect because we're all humans and we all make mistakes, and but no place is absolutely perfect. But there, with somebody like me helping, we can get to a place that is going to meet nearly all, if not all, of your needs, and not have to go through a whole lot of, um like, weeding. Like, I'm going to weed out the places that aren't going to be a good fit to begin with, so you're not even going to go there, or especially if you're working with me,
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
suggest, like, let's take a look at these 3 or 4 places, not the 10 that happen to be in the area, because 5 or 6 of those are not even appropriate for your loved ones. So
Now,
potentially.
Carolyn, do you work with the hospital? So, like a person's family member is being discharged from the hospital gives them a list of facilities that they can check out for their loved ones, and that list can be frustrating. Now, I know that this may not be fair and sane, but there is, I don't know, do they call it a red line or something, where if they have had some disciplinary actions taken against the facility, it's also noted. Is that true?
Yeah, that's specifically with nursing homes. So, skilled nursing facilities or nursing homes, that's one particular level of care. So, those are all, they all have a standard or guidelines that they're reviewed on every year. And that's through the Medicare and Medicaid, so through the Center for Medicare Services, and yeah, you can actually look those up online. There's a 5-star system for
Correct.
a rating system for nursing
Mm-hmm.
homes and skilled nursing facilities. And yes, there's a new that's probably maybe in the last, well, it's not that new, probably 5 or 6 years now, um, where there is it's actually called the red hand. So the red hand, if that particular nursing home had an investigation for abuse, then there would be that red hand on that description for
And
that
I
particular
don't think
place.
people, I don't think the public is really aware of that. I mean, you and I are social workers from a different level, but that's something that we know. But actually, residents don't even pay attention or don't even know what that is. And I think it's time, with a show like this, and you as the guest bring that attention to the public, so that when you are looking for a facility, if it doesn't meet your criteria, then don't go. Don't take, well,
Correct.
that's around the corner, we're going to work it out. No, we're not going to work it out, because this is still
Yeah.
a human being. Don't work it out, get it right. So let me go to another brochure here, and it talks about you, my dear assisted living. Carolyn Marengere. Okay, so I saw where you said certified placement referral specialist and dementia care certified. Now, I got to get to that, because a lot of people who are going through, uh, family changes with their loved ones who have dementia. Are there particular facilities for dementia care?
Yes, there absolutely are. So those are typically called memory care
Mm-hmm.
communities. Or in a nursing home, there may be like a specific part of a nursing home or section of a nursing home that is for people who have dementia or need that higher level of care for memory care. So there are. However, there are a lot of people who live in assisted living or maybe even independent living places who have dementia. So some typically minor or early forms, not typically later forms because those people generally need a lot more care. But yeah, some people with dementia can live in an independent living or assisted living place with some support or maybe no support to begin with. Um,
But over
but
time, if
yes,
a person is experiencing dementia, early stages of dementia, they're in a facility, but they're going to be upgraded to another level and to another unit of a facility, if that's the case.
yeah,
Because you can come
they
in,
may
yeah,
need
yeah,
that.
you come in with one thing, and then all of a sudden the onset of dementia comes into play, and the family member has to be notified that um, Miss So and So has now early stages of dementia, or whatever stage it is. So but all facilities don't offer dementia care.
That's true. They don't offer necessarily memory care, but a lot of places can help with people who have like that early stages.
Okay.
But somebody that really needs memory care is somebody that more in the later stages, they maybe either can't feed themselves or don't remember to eat, or possibly somebody that's wandering. That would be like wandering, like they're getting lost or they're
Hmm.
trying to constantly be
Right.
leaving the place. And if that's the case, then they really need to be in a secured environment where they can't, um, they can't
Wander off.
leave and
Right.
wander off and be, out in, and not have somebody around them that's going to be there to help them because typically they're
Okay.
confused in that situation, which is why they want to
Hmm.
leave. And yeah, so that would be a a reason why someone would need to actually be in a memory care section, whether that's in assisted living memory care or nursing home memory care.
And you know what? I want to thank you. I kept saying dementia care, and you said memory care. So the correction is memory care before we go to the word dementia.
Either
Okay.
either way, either way
Well,
works.
memory care sounds a little more softer. It sounds a little more softer than dementia, but people, it depends on how they feel about their loved ones. So I'm gonna jump to one of these flyers in particular that I want to mention because it talks about continued care retirement communities and offers independent living. Then residents can transition to assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing. Now, if I'm in a retirement facility, that means that I can be moved around because I started there as a pretty much able-bodied person, but over the time, say a couple of years, I'm starting to decline. I can still stay in my same facility and just be moved around to the different divisions or units.
Yes, there are several of those in the Tri-County area. Actually, not there's like a handful of them. Some of them, only one of them currently has an entrance fee, but generally a continuing care retirement community used to almost always have an entrance fee, like a large fee that you would pay up front. But most of that has gone away in this area, and they're really just month to month leases. But the whole on the campus of this community, you can live in independent living, or if you get to the
Hmm.
point where you need assisted living, you can move from independent to the assisted. If you eventually need memory care, you can move to the memory care. And if you need skilled nursing, either when you're in the independent living and skilled nursing sometimes means short-term rehab. So you could go to the rehab and then come back home to your apartment. Um, or longer term skilled nursing can be a long term
So
living
let me ask you
situation
this.
as well.
I do know that there's quite a few differences between the three. Is it three? Is it independent living, assisted living, and then nursing home care, correct? So can you briefly give our audience the breakdown of what each of them are? So what's independent living? Starting with independent living. What is independent
Ye-
living?
Yeah, so independent living can be anything from a person that lives in their own home, maybe where they've raised their children and they're living there independently. They don't need help or care or any of that. Or maybe they do, but it's not like they need 24-hour care. Um, so could be one. It could be an apartment, an independent living apartment, and there are different sort of levels of that. There are subsidized senior housing apartments,
Hmm.
which are typically low income. There are other types of independent living senior apartments that really don't provide any services. And then there are independent living communities that typically would provide it's independent, so it's your own apartment. Typically you have
It's
a
almost like a
kitchen or a
village.
kitchenette, but they often provide meals, they often provide transportation, definitely activities. So whether that is crafts or games or outings to like the casino or the a cider mill or something like
Okay.
that. Yeah, all
All
kinds of
right.
different options there with
So
independent living.
when you get down to the assisted living, because it sounds like some of those are related. So when you get down to the assisted living, what's really the difference between the assisted living and the independent?
Yeah, so in assisted living, that's typically somebody that needs 24-hour care. So maybe they need help getting in and out of a chair or in and out of bed, or they need help going to the bathroom, or they need, somebody to maybe they're a fall risk and they really need somebody to walk with them wherever they're going so
Mhm.
that they don't fall. Even if they have a walker or a cane, maybe that's just not enough support and they need somebody to go with them. So that that's the main difference between independent living and assisted living. In assisted living, it's 24-hour care that's provided, and generally the people that live there need that 24-hour care.
Now let me ask you this: on the assisted living part, is that where there's visiting nurses and doctors on staff in the facilities that check on the clients on a regular basis?
So in visiting doctors actually can come to independent, and they do go to independent living apartment complex apartment
Mhm.
communities, and yes, they do also go to the assisted living, and memory care is a sort of an offshoot of assisted living. It's a form of assisted living.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
mhm.
All right. And then overall nursing home is you in there.
Well, there's two different uh, parts of a nursing home. There's what's called short-term rehab. So let's say somebody falls and they need to have, maybe they broke their arm or something, and they need to, oftentimes then they'll go to the hospital. After a 3 or more day stay at the hospital, their Medicare will typically pay for them for short-term rehab. So they go to
Mhm.
that section of the nursing home that provides them with daily physical therapy and occupational therapy, to help them get stronger so that they can go back home in most cases, or sometimes it really means that they can't go back home and they need to go to assisted living at that point.
Yeah.
Um, so that's sort of one section, and then of a nursing home. And the other section is the long term care. So people that do actually live there and live there long term, not just 2 or 3 weeks of short term
Okay.
rehab. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, it's a lot going on because as we're aging, we need to be more knowledgeable about the different components of services. I'm gonna be honest. My mom, she was a CNA in a nursing home, and when I was doing my internship, for my degree in gerontology, she said, "Do me a favor," and I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Whatever you do, don't put me in one of these." And I'm
Mm.
just saying this because I believe in being a caregiver. So I was 26 years old when she said it, and I remembered it. And as she started to age, and I remember what she told me, I decided to make sure that I honor her wishes by taking care of her at home. Now I know that's not for everybody. We all can't do that, but I appreciate you enlightening our viewers on the different variations of nursing programs that they can check into so that they will feel better about the decision they're making and the location that they would be interested in. I'm going to run through some of these flyers that you sent over to us because we're getting close out of time. So, subsidized senior apartments, healthy seniors live with people of similar age, no meals or services provided in the rent, may offer some social activities run by the residents. So is this more like the independent living?
Yeah, it's a specific form of independent living. It's subsidized. So
Okay.
generally, people that are low income, those places, and you have to be either 55 or older or 62 or older. It depends. Each place has, one
Okay.
particular form or another. Um, and it's based on your income. So whatever your income is, you typically pay 30% of your income as your rent in those particular
Okay.
subsidized places.
Okay. This one here, independent living communities, healthy seniors live with people of similar age, restaurant type meals, housekeeping services, social activities, care services may be offered. Okay. So that's on the higher end independent living.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, somebody's got a little income there, they can allow themselves to live independently, with and still have all the what they call amenities.
Yeah, amenities and, not have to worry about their house and, making sure the walks get shoveled or the grass gets cut or the roof is leaking and I have to deal with that in independent
Okay.
living or really any of these other types of living situations. If you're not in your own home any longer, your 2 or 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom home any longer, all of these places, the monthly rent that you pay
Is
includes
gone. Yeah.
maintenance. So you don't have to
All
worry
right.
about any of that.
All right, so this is the last one I can get in. Assisted living communities or homes licensed and regulated by the state provide 24 hours access to care staff, assist with activities of daily living, medication management. Smaller AFC homes provide environment. All right, Carolyn, you got to run that through right quick. So tell me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so assisted living, like I said, that's somebody that needs 24-hour care. And in the state of Michigan, we actually have two different types of those. There's larger communities that generally have more than 20 um, apartments or beds, they actually call them. Um, and those are larger
Okay.
places. Many people probably know those. We also have what the state calls adult foster care homes. So those are literally a house in a neighborhood. They're typically privately owned and they are licensed by the state. They generally have,
Carolyn?
most homes have like 6 people.
Well, Miss Carolyn, I'm running out of time. Will you come back and join
Okay.
me again? I am so sorry, but you know, because we're on a roll and this is excellent information, so I'm going to have you come back real soon. Okay?
Okay.
So
I'll
hold
be
that
happy
thought for
to.
me. Hold that thought. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to run. She was on a roll, and we're on a roll and getting you this information to you. So, by all means, you can always reach out to us to 1 800 323 5336 and ask us a question and tell us who you want to see. And we're definitely going to have Carolyn Mangen. I mean, I'm what, Marginger, but I'm messing up her name. Come back and join me. And she told me her name 3 times. I'm not good. All right, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. And what do I always say? If you have a question about a person with a disability or just a general question, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I'm your host. See you next time.